All right, everybody. Y'all know who it is, Metro Meta, and
At one Marcus Flowers.
we'd like to thank you for watching and listening to our content. We'd like to thank you even more if you leave a like, a comment.
Subscribe. Definitely subscribe. We need that. Subscription.
Hey, don't forget to share with all your friends and tell us how you feel.
And tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend that you got it from 26 and Glencoe Media Network.
Keep it real.
I am Marcus Flowers, aka Flo, aka Call Me What You Want, just don't call me lazy. It is the third month of the year, which means it is time for March Madness. Over at 26th and Glencoe, that means a podcast a day, every day for the month of March. Let's get it, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome back, and we are here for Volume 3, Episode 26 of the Super Flow Bros podcast. I am your host, at one Marcus Flowers, aka Flo, aka Call Me What You Want, just don't call me lazy, and I am joined by...
Y'all know who it is. He who shall not be named. He who stands above all else, Metro Meta and Marcus. Are we in the same place?
We are. This is actually the first time we have been recording in the same area, and I want to say since what, December? Possibly?
Yeah, so for those of you guys who don't know, my last semester of college was cut short due to that which won't be named 19. So yeah, I'm back in Denver, Colorado, settling down, and we'll see what happens.
Wait, you kind of buried the lead there. Like, you said your semester got cut short, but normally, just to intro y'all to some of the behind the scenes work, we usually record on Saturdays or Sundays of the Super Flow Bros podcast, and they normally they're normally released on Monday. But last week, we were on the road. We actually took a trip. I risked my life, and I flew from Colorado to NC A&T to help out my brother, and we did it was a 21-hour drive back from North Carolina all the way to Denver, and we went through North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky,
Kansas,
Illinois, trying to do it in North, Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, and then finally Denver. So that was about six states in 2 days. We actually took a night rest in St. Louis, and it was very important to me to get to St. Louis that night, just because that is, I don't want to say that's a black city, but that is a city with a lot of minorities, and I didn't want to be stuck in like the middle of Kentucky or some small town in Illinois where we may not be welcomed, especially in this climate. So we went to St. Louis the first night, and then we got up about 9, and then we just hit the road, and we went to Denver, and we drove all the way to Denver the second night, and we got back to Denver around 9:30. I say we got to Denver around about 9 o'clock.
Yeah. I drove all the hard parts. There was this going downhill, curvy area down a mountain. Marcus was asleep. It started snowing one time when I was driving. Marcus was doing nothing. One time in Kansas, it was raining really bad. Marcus was also asleep. We got into stop traffic. Marcus just sat there. So, it was a long trip.
I will say that I don't believe the hill story in North
happened.
Carolina.
We were going downhill. And my dad's car.
I will say that so sometimes when my nerves get really bad, I overreact and I overthink. So if there were hills, my natural instinct would be, hey, if I'm gonna die, let me just be asleep when it happens. So instead of being awake and trying to coach my brother, say, hey, slow down, you're going too fast, you're behind this car, I instead chose the easy route and said, hey, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die asleep.
But we made it.
We made it, yes, we did. And we made it in a 2002 Chevrolet 2004 Impalas. So
That is now out of commission for the
even
foreseeable
more.
future.
that is even more impressive. That
Yeah, it couldn't
took-
drive at 55 miles an hour.
Yeah, it was really weird. It was like the engine would stall at 55 miles an hour. Between 50 and 55, the engine would stall, so you'd either have to go up to 60 or down to 49. And if you're familiar with cross-country driving, of course, some of the speed limits go up to 70 and slow down to 55. So it's just trying to find that balance between like 60 and 57 and maybe even 49 in some other areas.
It was a real struggle.
It wasn't a struggle as much as not a challenge, but just like a small task that you just had to overcome.
Yeah, definitely. So, but we're back now. Let's hit the front porch. What fun news do you have?
Basically, this episode we're not gonna do. Normally, we do like the front porch, the living room, the kitchen, the dining room, grand opening, grand closing. We're not going to do that because basically all the news has just hovered around one
unnamed virus.
Well, one virus that has just really, it's really a pandemic, and it's kind of crazy seeing the type of just response that this is getting,
We're
especially
basically living
in
in,
America. It's crazy. And it's more insane that this virus has shown how flawed capitalism is.
I think
Because it's just like I don't know if you're there yet, Morgan, but when you're in like the workforce, I always say have 3 months rent or 3 months of bills saved up. But literally 2 weeks into the worst financial crisis we've seen since the Great Depression, and companies are already out of money, asking for bailouts already. Cruise lines who have been avoiding American taxations have been applying for bailouts in America, and it's kind of weird because you're basically not an American company. Why should you deserve a bailout? And if you're listening to us right now, there's a likely chance that you have a higher credit score than Delta Airlines. So congratulations to you. Because
but
all
Delta's
it
just
took
bad.
all it took was 2 weeks for Delta to say, "Hey, our credit is messed up," and they basically can't even apply for a cell phone right now.
Well, see, the thing is with all of this is we're like people were noticing like, we always talk about like, middle class is always living paycheck to paycheck. Turns out everybody living paycheck to paycheck. You living paycheck to paycheck. Your landlord living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah,
and apparently Delta Airlines, the major company, is also somehow living paycheck to paycheck.
And it's crazy that the landlords are living paycheck to paycheck, just because, especially in the Denver area, just with a lot of properties owned by like the same company, and they're saying, "Hey, times is hard. We here for you, but we need that money." And it's just like, if you don't pay, how can I pay such and such and such and such? And it's just like, it's just a spiral. It's just like you have to pay Peter. What is it? Rob Peter still Paul? I'm getting it wrong. Rob Peter. No. Pay Peter.
Still Paul.
Steal from Paul to rob Peter. No, but you know what I'm saying.
Steal from Paul to pay Peter?
I think that's it, but that doesn't sound right.
Man.
But yeah, no, it's basically
Marcus
like,
hasn't been in church in 3 months.
no, I was actually we're gonna get to church in a second, but yeah, no, it's like a crazy sick cycle that I've just noticed, and I've like, especially just like the past 3 years I've been working for a nonprofit, and so of course like I've always had like my reservations with how the pay system works there, but it's just like now I'm very appreciative of like the type of system that my company has in place. It's just like, I'm fortunate to be able to work remote, and it's also that I see like other companies running out of money, and it's just like to be very fortunate to see like, okay, my company's like good for the foreseeable future, and I don't have to worry about getting laid off or being furloughed or them saying, "Hey, we can't pay you this week." So it's very fortunate to be in in a business that really like takes care of you. And even they gave us like, because we've been working, I've been quarantined for like 3 weeks. I've been working remote for 3 weeks, and the official remote actually started 2 weeks ago in Denver. But we were already ahead of the curve on that, and just to see how we've been ahead of the curve and working and trying to get like some of the companies and some of the talents that we work with as well to get on the same page. That's really dope to see that we've been ahead of the curve on that.
Yeah. For me, just the way my system broke up, I'm just now getting into a quarantine. And I have a few things to work out with my school to finish up and make sure I get my degree. My graduation has been postponed for the time being. So it's just getting everything ready to end. I think next week they're going to, either next week or the week after, they want us to start helping more online with the teachers, which I don't know how much help I'm going to be with that. I'll probably just like write up a couple lessons. But it's just interesting seeing how everybody's dealing with this.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. One of the things that's actually surprising to me, well, it's kind of not surprising, just considering the climate that we're in, is how like people are already just like bored out of their mind. They played all the drinking games. They've done all the TikTok dances. They've read all the books. They've like, and there's nothing to do. And they like, and it seems like people are already getting super depressed over this. How do you feel about that?
I mean, for me, cause me and all my friends, we heard stay inside for the next 3 weeks, and we did our Kingdom Hearts dance in our room. Like I was dead set ready for like quarantine. Like even just like stuff to watch. I still have TV shows I want to watch, movies I need to watch. Got a boatload of video games I need to finish. I was like, I can do a quarantine. But just like talking to certain people, especially seeing my more outgoing friends, just like struggle with like, oh, we have to be inside. I can't go to restaurants. I can't go to the club. Meanwhile, I'm just like, I didn't want to go to those places anyway. It's just very interesting to see how people struggle with this, and they're like making their list of things they want to do and just feeling more appreciative of like being together.
Yeah, no, and it's weird how like, because humans are just social creatures in general, but it's very weird to see how just some people's friend groups have changed since this quarantine, because you're probably not there yet, Morgan, but it's just like, because I'm about to be 30 in 2 years, so it's just seeing how those people who you hang out with every weekend, they're not really your friends, they're your drinking buddies. That young woman or the young lady or the young man who you've been interacting with, y'all aren't really as intimate as you thought y'all were. It's just, or even just like even those like family members that you call family but aren't necessarily family, you're realizing that y'all aren't as close as y'all seem to be, and that's something that I have not necessarily had to deal with, just because if you know me, I've been cool with my friends since high school. I've been cool with some of them since like I was in single digits, so it's just like they've always been there for me. And even like my friends from college, we've been talking over Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, so it's never been anything for me to like, I haven't really suffered socially, and even just like intimacy with me and my girlfriend. It's just like, of course we're quarantined in separate places right now, and but it's even that we're learning more about each other through like quarantine than like necessarily where we talk to each other every day, because of course like when it comes to like work, like you go to work every day, you're like, yo, how you doing, how's your job, how's this, how's that, and it's just like, okay, let's like slow down, let's get a time to like think, let's really talk to each other, stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel that. But let's get away from this depressing topic.
Is it that depressing? I don't think it's that depressing, just because.
I mean, but it's all people, like literally, it's all people talk about, and it's just, It is for me. It very much shows how effective this is. Like I watched a lot of the late night shows, or I did, and when they got put on quarantine, like you don't notice how important like an audience is or the setup is. But just watching like Trevor Noah, one of my favorite comics, probably one of the most funniest people on the planet right now, and just trying to see him set up jokes without having that audience like feedback, without having like that, oh, he made a funny joke and he like says a joke and he pauses, you're like, oh, that's weird. He's being weird right now. And you don't and it really forces you to guess like, is he actually that funny or does he just have really good audiences? And it's just a very different ideal. Just watching people, especially my content creators that I follow, adjust to like being online and being there. Like you have I have like two. I have like my more professional ones I watch, like Rooster Teeth, which is a production company, and the less ones like the YouTubers, they're fine. They already work from home, most of them, so they already gone. They're getting to it. But even just the more professional ones, like one of my favorite YouTubers, like Austin McConnell, he like did a whole like 5-minute like sort of docu about his city shutting down. I was just like, this is really affecting like everybody across the board. And even like I was watching Rooster Teeth and they were all put on hold and they're trying their best to make like content for their community because everybody's trapped inside. And just Funhouse had put out a video of them talking like a dude soup. And you could just see how, like, just taking away that infrastructure that they rely on so much to just pump out daily videos, just taking that away for even just a week had, like, such an effect on not just their content, because, of course, like, they didn't have the nice cameras. Right. They didn't have the gameplay and all that. Right. But just, like, them as creators, like, Funhouse is, like, they're the silly, funniest part of Rooster Teeth. And they just sounded, like, defeated. They're, like, every single time we try to set something up, something breaks. We saw like one of the dudes looked like he was about to snap on his roommate, and I was just sitting there. You were like, oh, these people are really going through a crisis. And just because it differs, like Funhouse, it was like Elise and James and them, and they really cared about their quality. They're really on it. So like I could tell they were taking a hit every single time they had to put up a video that wasn't to their standards, and everything was breaking. But you could go, like, across the hall to, like, Funhouse's Inside Gaming thing, and they, like, first night, because I watched this, the first night they went on quarantine, they had a live stream on YouTube. It was a mess. Discord dropped out. They were trying to, like, it was basically an hour and a half of them trying to figure out how to get into a game and play. And just an hour and a half of us watching technical difficulties. But they were just so loose, and they just rolled with it. They're like, this is just what we're going to be doing. And you could tell, like, they were a bit more, I wouldn't say prepared, but they were a bit more, like, capable of, like, we're capable of, like, rolling with it and using our personality to fill in the stuff that's not as quality. And then even, like, this last week, they already seem like they're on the game. They set up a new system where everybody's in it on a Skype call. And I was like, low-key, I'm liking your videos more now under quarantine than when you were in the office. And this is the same company. So it's very interesting to see how different people react to this and how content is changing. Speaking of content changing.
No, not to rush ahead, but I would say when it comes to just like live streaming, and you brought up churches earlier and how specifically, I don't know about like Catholic churches or like those like what the multi-denominational churches, but I will say black churches have been reacting and trying to be proactive when it comes to the coronavirus as well with their Facebook live streams, because like not to but I'm a trustee at my church, and it's been quite the task because I've actually been on more Zoom conference calls with my church than my actual job, and I find that very funny. But it's just like how I get super nervous. I was super nervous Sunday morning, just like waking up, and we're going on Zoom, and I'm trying to make sure like, okay, we're good on Zoom. We should do it this way, and I was watching the service, and I wasn't necessarily like, my spirit wasn't necessarily getting fed because I went into content creator mode, and I was like, okay, we can improve on this. We need to do this better. This is okay, but we need to do this better. That person should share their screen so that we don't see all the audience members. And there's some churches. Morgan, have you heard of those churches who are still having service?
I figured
there were some churches in Denver who are still technically having their church service on Sundays.
Yeah.
And that seems nuts to me.
But see, you have those people who are struggling, trying to give it up. And like there was like a bunch of news stories, especially a couple weeks back, right when they started sending people into quarantine. They were like, yeah, we're sending people into quarantine, but the elders aren't cutting their schedules. They're not going into quarantine. And these are the main people who are going into quarantine for, and they're still out there living their best life. Out there living a hot girl summer, playing racquetball together and everything. And so I definitely, especially when you're talking about like the American religious institution, they're very stubborn. They're very traditionalist. I definitely don't think that there's a lot of them that's probably just going to say, we're going to go to church and we're going to pray on it and we'll be fine.
Speaking of religion, did you hear about Liberty University today?
No.
Okay, so Liberty University, which is a big
conservative.
Yeah, big conservative university, that their headmaster came out and said, yo, coronavirus is a hoax. I want y'all back in the dorms after spring break. So kids, of course, went back. Like, it was like 1,000 kids went back to Liberty University. And it now turns up that 14 people in that university have COVID-19. So it just means like, it's just like people who try to defy logic are coming up at the short end of the stick. And actually, we are recording it is 7:30 Mountain Standard Time on Sunday, March 29th. But about an hour ago, President Trump said that we will be under lockdown until April 30th, but to expect great things by June. And that's actually not even just like listening to like Trump, but that's actually like the time.
That seems like a good time.
That's the timeline that I had just like in my mind. Like, okay, well, and that's the time I'm like my job was under, but like
we can keep stuff down.
Yeah, just
shut down long enough in April. May. Start loosening it a bit.
No, I'm not. No, don't even loosen it in May. I feel like if you loosen it, it's gonna get worse again. And I feel like with the coronavirus, it'll never go away now. Like, it's always gonna be here, but it's going to be sporadic. Like, I feel like it's going to come in waves. Like, I feel like it'll slow down for the summer, but once fall gets in, there's gonna be a second wave, and we're gonna have to go through this all over again.
But I definitely feel like it's gonna be about building up a herd immunity,
right? And
because you think about it, all the people who caught coronavirus right now, who don't die, who come back from it, they now have their body has an immune system built up to take out the coronavirus.
And I feel like if you're like safe right now, I feel like you already have it. Like I feel like we've already had, like, cause I was like back in January, I was super sick. Like, I was like, well, it was like the type of, it wasn't necessarily the flu, but it was like a type of sickness I've never felt before, and I was still like trying to go to work, and I was like, oh, I'm so dead, and I had to take a day off. But it's just like, I feel like that was that back then. I was like, oh, this is terrible, because it wasn't even like the regular flu. I was like, oh, I've never felt a sickness like this before.
Well, there's no way of proving it.
Right.
Chances are you might have been exposed to it. Coronavirus didn't really hit North Carolina as soon as that. But, like, again, it's just a matter of you build up that herd immunity. If a large population of America, because, like, once this is over, if coronavirus tries to come back again, just the amount of people who have already been exposed to it and have built up that immunity and can deal with it in an efficient way, they're going to be just a barrier for the virus spreading, which is good to look into the future.
Yeah, that is a positive, but I will say that people just need to be precautious. Like, wash your hands. Like,
well, yeah,
I feel like coronavirus
has
has like exposed how nasty people are. Like, just for like,
we know people is nasty.
like no, but it's like really exposed like how nasty they are. How like willing people are willing to touch strangers, just like bumping into them in the supermarket. It's just like, and a person like me, I don't like people touching me. It's like I don't even like my friends touching me like that. So it's just like, don't touch. I've always been like a don't touch me in public. You don't know me like that. And it's just like, now it's like, okay, everybody is going to be on that wave, and like, it's not going to be like all hugs and kisses and like, oh man, I'm sorry I bumped into you. Like, no, you may have the coronavirus now. And so that's like something that's like, I feel like that's going to change us as well. And I feel like not under this leadership system in the United States, but it will force like younger generations to be like, okay, the system we have in place isn't working right now, and we need to put in new power structures that are able to handle a pandemic because necessarily like capitalism just isn't working.
It's very interesting to see how this will change.
So,
but
but during your quarantine, what have you done creatively to try to like expand your mindset?
Oh, I haven't done anything.
Okay.
I haven't. I've played Animal Crossing.
Okay. How's that been?
I'm really liking it. Animal Crossing is interesting for me because those of you guys who don't know, like, Animal Crossing basically has just been the superhero of like this quarantine. Like, it's all over my social media feed. And, like, when big games like Animal Crossing or Smash Ultimate come out, like, it blasts my Twitter feed, but Animal Crossing is just blown it out the water. Like, Half-Life, Marcus, do you know the pedigree behind the Half-Life franchise? Like, for those guys who don't know, Half-Life is basically the premiere of Valve franchise on PC, and it's really just a trendsetter. And for the past, like, it's probably over 10 years by now, people have been waiting for Half-Life 3. Valve hasn't made it. And on Monday, they released Half-Life Alyx, a VR game, which is basically Half-Life 3. And it's really good. Got really great reviews. I've seen very little of it in my Twitter feed. I might have seen like 2 or 3 posts about it. Every day I go in and there's like block to block with Animal Crossing, just people like throwing graduate. I saw this really funny video of this YouTuber who got his friends together and they threw like a fake graduation in Animal Crossing. And just seeing that game, because I knew Animal Crossing by pedigree, like I've heard of it, but I've never played it before. And just getting into it, it's a very different game. It's not like, at first I thought it'd be more like Stardew Valley. It's very different from Stardew Valley, just in that you don't have like a strict goal. Like, Tom Nook out here, he'd be like, you got a loan for 300,000 bells, pay me. But he's like, pay me when you get to it. And so you're like, man, I'm gonna pay Tom Nook. I'm gonna build up my house. And so it's just very enjoyable. It's like a very serene, like relaxing experience, and just you're building up your island and like slowly getting it to where it is. And just, it does have a sense of community to it, just with your island mates. For some respects, there are some people on my island that I wish would leave. A moose named Coach, who I've been trying to get to leave for like the past 3 days. I put a fence up around his house. I've been hitting him with bug nets. He's still here. He better sleep with one eye open. He's gonna end up in a sack.
I will say, creatively, it's actually been kind of hard to just like work, because I still have like my real job. So Like I'm working remote. Like I work remote from like 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and it's just like, okay. And it's like working remote. I will say one thing that has surprised me is that I'm actually working harder working remote than I am in the office, just because working remote you don't want to seem like you're slacking off. You don't want to seem like, okay, like you're gone for an hour. Like you don't like, okay, you got to make that time up. You don't want to seem like you're just that lazy coworker who's like, hey, it's basically free time. So I will say it's been rather difficult for me to like. I work 8 a.m. to 4, and it's like, okay, I need a break. And immediately at 4, I turn on the PlayStation. And I'm like, yo, this is what I need to just like relax, get my mind off of a tough day. And then after like an hour or so of like playing PlayStation, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna eat dinner, and then by that time, it's like 6 or 7. It's like, sun's kind of going down. Maybe I don't know what else to do. Maybe I should just go to sleep and do it all over again. And then like this weekend I wanted to do something more creative, but like I also wanted to take a break because work is still work, and it's still like not the funnest. Like it's not like work is still good, but it's like sometimes you just need a break from like looking at a computer screen all day, from like thinking of how to be innovative. Like you just need to relax.
Have you felt that being out of the office, you lost like some foundational support? Like, is it harder to do your job, or?
So I'm basically I'm a producer. I'm a digital content producer. So I don't necessarily need the office. I think the challenge now is just to rise to the occasion and just like making sure I'm still putting my best foot forward, like I was in the office. Like I don't want my workload to be like, okay, to like decrease, because it's just like you don't want to seem like you're slacking off or you're just like chilling, because that's not how I was raised. Like that's not my work ethic. Like you gotta put your best foot forward, and it's just like I feel like the work that I'm just doing now professionally, it has to be 10 times better than what it is at the office, just because that's the way. Like you don't want to seem like, okay, we give you some leeway and your work production slows down. That's not how we do business. We have to assess some things. Then nobody wants to be fired on quarantine or remote. Like that's not the way it goes anyway.
Yeah. So it's definitely been an adjustment period.
Nah, for sure.
Got any recommendations for our fans out there stuck in quarantine?
So I've been binging a few shows. I finally started Ozark. That's pretty good. I'm still on season 1. Do not judge me. I also started Designated Survivor. I watched Uncorked last night, which was it was alright. This Top Boy is really good. I've enjoyed that. McMillions has been something that I've enjoyed. That's a documentary on HBO Go that talks about the McDonald's monopoly scam and how like a few people were just going through and selecting who wins and who doesn't win, and that's okay. One my favorite comedian, Gerard Carmichael, I watched his home videos. That's also on HBO. I've been watching that. Catching up on My Hero Academia. I started Demon Slayer. So, but yeah, I will.
You started Demon Slayer?
Yeah.
Kichi no Yaiba?
Yeah.
That show is good.
Yeah.
What episode are you on?
I'm on 1. I'm like the middle of 1.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, I like that for sure. And I think that's about it.
So for me, I've mostly been gaming. I restarted a playthrough on Pokemon Black and White 2 to get Kyurem and Reshiram. But if you're looking out here for some new anime, I've been watching Darwin's Game, which is really, really good. It's sort of like Battle Royale superhero show, so that's really good. I've been catching up on Black Clover, just the manga. I might go back and watch some anime episodes. I need to catch up on My Hero. And you know what? I've just been watching my favorite like old Disney shows. Like I watched not this isn't Disney, but like I went back, I watched some Victorious. Probably watch maybe like Live and Maddie or something tonight. So just going back and watching my comfort TV, I think is a lot of fun. You know.
Nah, for sure, definitely. That's it's been a challenge because it's just like you're stuck in quarantine and you have access to all of these platforms that you pay for that you necessarily may not feel like you're using the best of, but like it's just like sometimes you just want to take your time. Like you don't want to like binge watching is cool, but like sometimes you just like, yo, I'm gonna just savor this. I'm gonna like
I mean, I still
bit,
need to. There's still tons of shows I need to finish.
Right, no, for sure.
I still haven't watched the last season of Runaways.
Nah, I haven't either. I still need to finish Cloak and Dagger as well.
Cloak and Dagger was good.
Yeah,
I really liked the last season of
I
Cloak
need to
and Dagger.
finish that.
I'm very upset they took it away from me.
Do you think it's going to a Disney Plus?
Eventually, I think it will end up on Disney Plus.
But
I don't think
new seasons.
I don't think it's gonna get any new seasons. It was canceled.
I will say, have you seen how some companies are like directly putting their movies
let's talk
on
about
VOD?
that because a lot of them, for those of you guys who don't know, a lot of movies that were going to launch or were already in theaters, companies have been just throwing it up for rents and up on their streaming service because they were like, nobody's going to the movies, so might as well. How do you feel about that, Marcus?
I feel like it's okay. I will say the price of like, cause I was looking to see Bloodshot, and it was like $19. I'm like, I don't even pay $19 to get into a theater.
But see, we also have a cheaper theater.
So, even just like the Pavilion at Universal, that's only like $17. And it's just like, why would I pay $20 and some change to see a movie that like I'm kind of on the fence in the first place? Like I'll wait for that. I'll wait for stuff like that because it's not that
heavy.
It's not. Yeah, I wasn't too pressed about it.
Yeah, but I think it's very interesting because you have this big conversation going around about like the death of the theaters and how theater chains are really struggling and trying to like reinvent themselves. So that they become more experiential. And I think that this is a very important time because now you have a lot of production companies and they're testing the water to see, do we actually need to release it in the theaters or can we just throw it up online for $20 and get the same amount of money?
Right.
And I think for a lot of them, I think they're cutting the cost and saying this might work. Like Trolls is about to... I think Trolls is either out, but it's about to drop. And I'm like, nobody was going to see the next Trolls movie. That's probably where it should have been in the first place. Direct to DVD. Throw it out
Or
there.
what was, you were talking about Upworld or...
Upworld.
Or Downworld, or it's the story about... Onward, yeah.
That had it was a Pixar movie, new IP. It had a great first week, and then COVID happened, and it dropped like 45%. Disney took it immediately off the theaters and threw it up on Disney Plus.
It's on Disney Plus right now?
Yeah.
I may have to check that out. But so what else is there? Let me check my list. So
yeah,
just to make sure we're not missing.
Persona Royale is coming out this Tuesday. So excited for that. I'm a risk the COVID to see if I can get my special edition on Tuesday.
I wanted to talk to you. Have you been watching any of the IG live battles between like producers, or have you seen any of the like DJs on IG Live or on Facebook or anything like that?
No, I don't follow the music industry like that.
So, basically, or even just like, have your friends posted DJs live streams?
No.
So one of the more innovative things I've been seeing since everybody's on quarantine is that people like DJs, like DJ D-Nice, DJ Rail from South Carolina State University, have been putting their live streams. They've been doing like quarantine parties where like, okay, this is like a party, and even just like artists are trying to create through all of it. They're having their own concerts and their own live. They're basically their own NPR Tiny Desk where they're performing to the camera. So how do you feel about just like artists or creators just like really breaking down and just being like, yo, this is basically just me and you chilling. Like, how's it? And just like performing or doing their arts.
Well, we're in an interesting time where artists are more and more having to build up their own communities and have to interact with their communities more.
Right.
And so you already have that in things like IG Live. You have people like DJ Khaled who've basically made their entire name off of just being the most relatable person with millions of dollars, And so that already is something that is like really accessible. And just like one of the... For my content, for my videos, whenever I make one of the people I follow, because he makes really good beats, is Chucky, I think it's Chunky Beats. And he'll do live streams, and he'll look at other people's music, and he's teaching his community how to be better at making beats. So you already have that base there. And I think it also, you got to think about the level, because like one of the things I noticed ever since we got into quarantine is a lot of like the fluff, like news and TV that we tend to follow, it gets a lot more pushback now. Like you get like all this stuff about how, like you had that one video with Gal Gadot and everybody else, singing Imagine in the most gentrified way. I couldn't listen to it, but like people are out here and they're like, this is cringy. People are dying. We don't need your sentiment. And I think that is a huge change from what, because like every single time you got like, they have the Twitter post of like, so-and-so broke up with so-and-so. And you always have the person in the comments who's like, nobody cares about this. But now you're starting to see like more and more people are like, no, we actually don't care about this. There's actual important things going on in this world. And we really don't want to hear about who got what and who got this or that. And so you're seeing just this cultural change in where like now stars are having to have to be more like careful with how they expose themselves now, because you might have like a cute moment with Chrissy Teigen and John Legend playing the piano and singing, or you might put up a video of you being like, I really can't deal with this quarantine, like Ellen did, and you get yelled at by a bunch of people saying you're a millionaire, you're in a mansion, nobody cares.
Yeah, I also feel like the way our society is set up, we put celebrities on this pedestal when they are still humans like us. Like, not to defend them, but it's just like nobody likes staying in the crib all the time. Like,
it
so
doesn't matter how big your crib is. Like,
yeah, like you're gonna get bored of it. One of the things I've been seeing that's been really funny is how like athletes are finally having to like bond with their family since they're like, there's no sports right now. So like, so what's up with y'all? Like, how y'all doing?
I think, have you been following racing?
E-racing?
Yeah.
So yeah, I have been following. It's very interesting to see. I really like that development.
Yeah.
Just how like NASCAR drivers are racing like esports racers.
So one of the things that's been, for those of you guys who don't know, what's been happening is after like all the sports were canceled, NASCAR immediately noticed this, and they also immediately noticed that esports were perfectly fine. And like in a week, esports was up and running already again. Like the Overwatch League is already back, and so they started just they take racing sims. And Marcus, I know you probably don't know this much about the gaming industry, but like racing sims are like really like, if you ever watch like racing sims or people like them, they're really in depth, they're really realistic. And so basically like the racing community was just like, we can hop on these and we could just do what we were doing. And so it's very interesting because now you have people who traditionally race regular cars, and they have like full setups of like, because racing fans are really intense, they got full like car setups that they sometimes use to practice for sim racers. And now they're just doing that in their house, and they're having these Grand Prix, and you have professional racers and esports racers, and you're seeing like racing fans like get really into like, oh, this is a game that looks exactly like, especially when you're dealing with like racing games that tend to have some of the most advanced graphics you've ever seen in the gaming industry. Like they really know how to pump up them numbers in the racing games. And so I saw this one tweet. This one guy was like, I didn't even realize that was a game. And then somebody else had replied like, oh, if you look at it, you can totally 100% tell based on the FPS and the polygon count. And he looked at him and was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so I was like, yeah, he probably doesn't, because he doesn't game. He wouldn't know what a FPS is or how to see what an FPS is or track polygon counts. And so just seeing like that that reach and like how this has been affecting and just how it's gonna change the industry, I think is very interesting, just overall.
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like we're going to be in a new era. I feel like the 2010s in general was just the golden era for content, and just like now we're going to be in a renaissance when it comes to just like everything from like sports to gaming to just like politics to just life in general. I feel like we're going to be in like a renaissance where it's going to be Darwinism, survival of the fittest, and it's no longer going to be a popularity contest, but it's slowly going to be who puts out the best content.
Yeah.
And it's just like the best content consistently, and that's what's going to be key, just because everybody can put out content. But when you're putting out good content on a consistent basis, I feel like that's what's going to hit. And I feel like this new era that we're going to be entering in, that's what we're gonna see. I don't know what the name of it is gonna be called 5 years from now, but we're definitely going to be entering a new era in the 2020s.
I definitely feel like it's basically gonna be more about your personality and being closer to earth, because there's a lot of content creators out there that they've been able to make a brand of themselves, and there's some YouTubers out there who there's some of the smallest YouTubers out there. I watch their videos every single day because I'm like, this is a really cool person. Right. And just being able to build that brand, like...
and I even feel like the word brand is going to be thrown out in 2020. Like, people are people are going to be like, that's not a brand, that's who you are as a person. Yeah. And I feel like the word brand, like building a brand or building your platform, it'll be one and the same. It's just like, oh, this is the person who's the brand, but he's still a person. And we're like, no, this is like the person in general who's with the brand, who built the brand. Because I feel like right now we're currently, and we're seeing it with just like in a podcast space with like Jamel Hill, Joe Budden, and even like Joe Rogan, and how they're like people first and they're not necessarily a brand. Yeah. And so that's just going to be more prevalent in the next few years. Like we're seeing like, okay, it's not just gonna be it's not gonna be Marcus Flowers the brand. It's gonna be, yo, that's Marcus Flowers the person.
And you're gonna be known for what you make, because like there's a lot of content. There's content creators with like 500 subscribers, but every time they go up on YouTube, people are like, this is what we expect from you. One of my favorite content creators, Super Butterbuns, she does For Beginners. They're like highly edited, really funny videos that are really good, and especially on her JRPG work. And there are several games that I myself purchased and got into, not because I actually was interested in the franchise to begin with, but just because, I'm gonna play this game because I want to be able to watch her For Beginners without being spoiled and stuff. Like Kingdom Hearts, I bought the entire series. I bought the Kingdom Hearts full collection, whatever they wanted to call that, including the 2.5 final chapter prologue, BS with Aqua. And then I played through Kingdom Hearts 1, watched tons of videos on Kingdom Hearts 2, sat through 365 over 2, sat through the X-Cross movie, and then played through all of Kingdom Hearts 3 just because I was like, Super Butterbun is one of my favorite content creators. I really want to know why she likes this franchise. And I got it. Like, I really like the Kingdom Hearts franchise now. I still need to finish Remind, but like I got why she liked it, and there's a lot of content creators out there like it.
Right. So let's just wrap this up. Do you have anything else to say?
Be safe, stay inside. Persona Royale coming out Tuesday. Yeah, but stay inside.
I will say, just be safe, be smart more than anything. I feel like just be more intelligent. I feel like that's the key. Just like we're in real times, like people want to be defiant, but it's cool to be defiant, but when you're risking your life to be defiant, that really it's
Cramps
not
the style,
worth it.
man.
It's not worth it. But yeah, no, overall, make sure you follow us at One Marcus Flowers on all social media platforms. Follow Morgan at Metro Meta on Twitter and Instagram. Follow us on Twitter at 26 and Glencoe. Like us on Facebook, 26 and Glencoe Media Network. Like us on YouTube at 26 and Glencoe Media Network. We have something really cool coming out this month. If we can actually get to create it, which I hope we will. So hopefully that all just like comes out the way we want to come out. And until next time, peace. I am Marcus Flowers, aka Flo, aka call me what you want, just don't call me lazy. It is the third month of the year, which means it is time for March Madness. Over at 26 and Glencoe, that means a podcast a day, every day for the month of March. Let's get it, and I hope you enjoy.
Alright, everybody, y'all know who it is, Metro Meta, and
At One Marcus Flowers.
we'd like to thank you for watching and listening to our content. We'd like to thank you even more if you leave a like, a comment.
Subscribe, definitely subscribe. We need that. Subscribe, subscription.
Hey, don't forget to share it with all your friends and tell us how you feel.
And tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend that you got it from 26 and Glencoe Media Network.
Keep it real.